call this meeting to order. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda with one change? Add after recognitions for board operations. The announced it at the grand opening of East Hall's new facility that Seth Viney will be named, the gym will be named Seth Viney. And we've got a resolution read it, and we need to officially vote on that. So that's one change. Do I have a motion? No motion. Second. All in favor? And we have a video.
Also at this time, in recognition of Veterans Day and thousands of men and women who've sacrificed and made the ultimate sacrifice for the remainder of us. First of all, I think, Aaron, you have a collage of just some of the activities. All 37 of your schools will celebrate Veterans Day today, and we are going to ask that we recognize a moment of silence in memory of the individuals who paved the way for the rest of us.
Also, in honor of Veterans Day, Eric Braddock, if you would come forward, and any other veterans, we'd like to have him lead us in the pledge.
Once again, if you are a veteran, we'd love to have you come forward and help lead if you're comfortable. So Eric Fleming, come on forward, please.
Attention, salute, pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Once again, tremendous feedback. I want to thank all of our schools, all of our team members, all of our students for making a big deal out of Veterans Day, because it is. Kevin, turn it over to you. Oh, before we do that, we gotta do it. Let's go ahead and adopt that referendum before we forget. I'd like to recommend that we adopt the resolution naming the East Hall Gymnasium after Seth Vining, as we read at our September 23rd meeting.
Second. All in favor? And if we get a copy, I'll sign it and we'll send it to the installer. It will be displayed in their present case.
Mr. Bales.
All right, at this time, I'm going to ask Executive Director for Leadership Development, Mr. David Moody, to come forward. We're going to recognize our Board Administrator Leader group tonight, cohort number 9, an impressive group. Got to see this group in action not that long ago. Very impressive group. Without further ado, David, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you all for having us and recognizing our colleagues and what they do for our schools in regards to leadership. Just to give you some numbers, started, then I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues that do the facilitation with growing admin leaders. But this concludes our 9th cohort, and we've had 160 participants, of which 15 are now currently principals. We have 31 that are actively in assistant principal roles, or no, 31 in active APs or assistant principals, and 19 that are in part-time positions, either in administration, instructional coaching, or other district support positions. And we really appreciate your backing this and getting this going with us 10 years ago. We're getting ready to start our 10th cohort, and we're seeing the difference it's made in our schools with our leaders, which is really exciting. But I'm also excited to introduce the facilitators.
And Dave, before you do that, I just want to tell the board I've had the opportunity to meet these individuals, to see their capstone projects, and the future of this district is in incredible hands. And so thank you for what you do, and thank you, board, for realizing that it all rises or falls on leadership, plain and simple. Thank you.
Absolutely. And for teachers, because they are teachers at heart, never forget your first class. This was their first class. and they'll share some stories, and I'm going to ask Jennifer, Joey, Billy, and Michelle to come up and present.
What's the chances we can use the microphone so that?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
Better stand up. So this was our first class, and we most of them are here tonight, some of them with their family members, children, and all of their supporters. And just like Mr. Schofield said, they really impressed our district leaders and principals about a week ago, and with their capstones, and we're just really proud of you guys. It was a year ago that we started, and it's hard to believe. You didn't know each other very well then, but we spent a lot of time together, a lot of evenings, and look at you now. We're so proud of you.
And I think the thing that stands out most to me is the collegiality we had. We've become friends, and the friendships that we've established. And I did make a comment when we were meeting with all of our principals a couple of weeks ago that what really impressed me was their drive, their ambition, but what was most impressive to me was their love of children, and how much they love kids. That speaks more to me than anything. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for sharing your lives with us and your children.
So obviously echo the same sentiments. And then lastly, I would just like to say that having you all together and seeing you grow over the last 12 months has been really impressive. We knew where we started. We started in a really good place, but the dynamics of what you guys shared with each other, how you came together as a group, and then to see your capstone presentation was very rewarding for us. First time through, set the bar really high. So we're excited to see where we go from here. But best of luck.
I too echo those sentiments. One of the coolest things was how much I have learned from you. So as we've had all of our discussions in class and our table talks, one of the things that we have talked about almost every time we've left is how much you all are really pushing each other in such a respectful, kind way. You never hesitated to say, I wonder if you, or I wonder what about this? And you constantly helped each other grow. And the moment that you gave that advice, the other people were going, yeah, oh, that's a great idea, thanks. So I loved how you were continuing to push others forward, myself forward, but you were growing too, and as a leader. So thank you so much for sharing all that time with us and growing.
Here's what we're going to do as you recognize them. Let's get the entire board, Brian and Deb, if you'd get up here too. As we recognize an individual, let's get a picture at that time. Don't worry, families, we'll get you as many pictures as you want. And so let's just get the whole board up there. And who's actually going to introduce, David?
You guys can introduce us.
Okay, Jennifer Coleman.
And would you please say what school you represent and what you currently do?
Central office, I'm a special education coordinator.
Fantastic, thank you. Come on, instructors, get in that picture.
Elizabeth James.
Where do you work and what do you do?
I'm at Chicopee Woods. I'm a second grade teacher.
Fantastic. I understand it was an incredible veterans program today at Chicopee Woods, along with a number of places, but thank you.
Thank you.
Holly Doro.
She is
I think she's
with the baby.
home with her new baby.
Yes.
Excuses, excuses.
Joanna Kell.
Tell us, Joanna.
I teach Sugar Hill, and I am the search and enrichment teacher. In the line.
Heather Cannon.
I'm at Cherokee Bluff Middle School and 8th grade social studies.
Craig Cantrell.
I'm at Cherokee Bluff High School and I teach music.
And Craig, I understand you're going to sing the Star Spangled Banner for us.
Morgan Kochi.
I'm at South Hall Middle School. I teach 7th grade science.
And it's correctly pronounced.
Yes. 1 O, 2 C's.
These last names a lot, did we? Sarah Gibbs.
I am at South Hall Middle School and I teach 8th grade social studies.
Now you have an extra letter with your name on that.
I do.
They'll fix it.
Jeremy Purdy.
I'm at South Hall Middle School and I'm the assistant principal.
We're going to have to shift here.
Come this way. Or that way.
Go towards Schofield.
Put her down.
Yeah,
Sutton Shirley.
Basketball practice.
Daryl Skogman couldn't be here. And JJ Wiley could not be here. Jennifer Martin's here.
Oh, sorry, marketing instructor at Flowery Branch High School.
Brittany Smith.
Johnson High School Social Studies.
And Daniel Johnson.
Johnson High School Science.
Congratulations, cohort 9.
Any get a picture on it.
Looking forward to starting. Can we get the group outside real quick and then we'll get your picture so that.
Once again, thank you for everything that you do. Appreciate it. About a CTAE Perkins program that's supposed to be across schools, which I don't even have a comment for, but you have a Perkins plan to be approved tonight?
I do indeed. So every year we bring before the board the Perkins plan. The Perkins plan, you see these three parts that go with it. No action asked for tonight. Rhonda's here to answer any questions you may have. But in effect, the local needs assessment consists of a data collection part, a root cause analysis, and the local application, and then you have a chance to see the improvement plan and the overarching needs for the district. So again, we're going to let this sit with you all week, and then we'll ask for you to vote on it next week if you would consider that.
But again, Rhonda, just for fun, how about talking about what a Perkins plan is?
Well, it has, when we're writing the Perkins plan, it has you bring in stakeholders. So we bring in folks from the business and industry community. We bring in folks from post-secondary. We bring in folks from our advisory committees. We bring in teachers. We even have some student representatives. And we just look at everything we're doing, and we're looking at the pathways that we offer. We're looking at, we also bring leadership folks in. We're looking at, the pathways we're offering, are we matching those with where the jobs are in the community? We solicit feedback, and they give us all that feedback, and then we use that to write our local needs assessment.
And you've done this before, Rhonda? It's not like...
Every year,
Oh.
we're looking and we're continually seeking input from our advisory committees. Every CTAE program has business folks and stakeholders that they solicit response from. And then we have a district-wide CTAE work-based learning committee that we solicit feedback from, representing all the career clusters that we have pathways that we offer now.
Thank you. While Rhonda's speaking, Kevin just said we'll be doing it formally at a future board meeting, but a couple of you were down at the State Department this week, and contrary to some posted opinions, you're actually there to celebrate the fact that Rhonda Samples, our Executive Director of CTAE, was named one of 6 in the entire country and all of the territories of the United States of America. She's now in the running for the national CTAE director for the entire nation. She's well deserved. She's the best CTAE director on the planet. I'm thankful that you and Carla could be down there to support her for that. Rhonda, you know I was doing some training or I would have been there. But once again, would you join me in congratulating Rhonda Samples?
Well, I'd like to say I read over all the information. She sent all that to us already. And I think people need to know that we don't just come up out of our heads with ideas of things we want to do. We get input from other people. We do needs assessments. And so when we have a new program that comes in, like our farming and all that, we've done research and we know that's a need and we know what the community needs. We know what the business sector wants. And we design it then. And then if we have a program that's not going, don't have a lot of participation, we get rid of that and replace it with something that's pertinent and relevant for today. So I think our community needs to know that it's, you know, we do a lot of work getting selections for those programs and keeping them alive and relevant. So.
Those 65 pathways, Deborah, and by the way, in the next couple of months, you'll get an opportunity to have a report on the new education pathway, which is now at all 7 of our high schools, and it is going absolutely incredible. One of the things that we know is that we're retiring about 9,000 teachers a year in Georgia, and we're graduating about 6,000. And the last time I did the math on that, we're about 3,000 short every year. There are schools in Georgia that do not have one certified teacher on the entire high school faculty. And so we better get busy and be creating future teachers. So you're exactly right. Thank you, Deborah.
All right, next item I have tonight is just a CSI TSI update. One of the requirements of the state is to place this item on a board agenda, and that is all we need tonight. We do not need action, but I do want to go over the schools that you have that are on either the Comprehensive Support and Improvement List, CSI, or the Targeted Support and Improvement List, TSI. We have 3 schools in this district that are on these 2 lists. 2 of them are on the CSI. One of those is Chicopee Woods Elementary. They're identified as being one of the lowest performing schools that represent the bottom 5% in identification. And And you see the exit criteria. I gave you a sheet with regard to the exit criteria, something everybody has access to on the screen. And the other one on the CSI list is Lanier College and Career, had a grad rate less than 67%. I was updating the cabinet this morning, and I'll update everybody here because it's pretty much general information at this time because grad rates have come out and are published. Our LCCA grad rate is over 70%, and this school will come off the list in January. I have an email from the DOE from last week saying, and indeed, this school will come off the CSI list starting in January of 2025. That's great news with regard to that. The TSI school in our district is West Hall High School. It is specific to a subgroup, and that subgroup is special education. The criteria that caused them to be on that list is all schools that have at least one subgroup that's performing in the lowest 5% of all schools in at least 50% of indicators and components available in CCRPI. We have been working with the state, both, by the way, at West Hall High with regard to special ed and at Chicopee Woods with state support from the SIG grant and so forth, and making progress, we feel like, in all three of these schools. And again, we're proud to say that we believe Lanier College and Career will come off this list. This now is a part of the record, and we've now went over this with the board. Any questions about TSI or CSI from the board? Last item I have before we get to the end of the program and board training is field trips. I have 3 field trips. One is out of state, is April of 2025. The other 2 is out of country. I do appreciate so much these schools giving us plenty of notice, and they're giving their communities plenty of time to fundraise. You see these trips are expensive. They will not be necessarily involving a lot of students, but you see the target number of 30 and 36 there, the target number of chaperones, and obviously Switzerland and Greece. But no action tonight. Let these sit with the board, and we will take these, bring these back before you next week. And that's it on this side.
If there are no questions, Jonathan, let's move right on to fiscal management, please.
Yes, sir. TABT receipts for the month of October were $1,066,363.11. That is a little bit lower both over last month and the same time last year. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
School-based activity report, as is required by law, we bring this before you on a quarterly basis. Jonathan, anything that needs to be said about that? Feel free to look it over, ask any questions that you have. Once again, keep in mind that every one of your 36 schools has school-based accounts. We have individuals that audit those accounts on a regular basis. This is your quarterly report. Jonathan, budget amendment number 2.
Yes, sir. Budget amendment number 2 is before you. All of these items are related to adjustments that are for grants, federal and state grants, and we're reflecting the changes that are in those grants to match with the consolidated application from GDOE. The only other item on there is an item for professional services for $150,000. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Jonathan, what's that for, $150,000?
It's for consulting services, for performance-based consulting services.
And it has to do with cybersecurity and some of the challenges
Yes, sir.
that the world is under, that quite honestly schools and businesses just are trying to catch up to some of the criminals, so thank you. Questions? Moving right along. East Blast analysis, Jonathan.
Yes, sir. East Blast receipts were $3,478,621.08. Just like TABT, it's a little bit less than last month and same time last year.
Questions? Matt, I believe you have some site approvals.
Yes, sir. So these 2 site approvals related to the construction work we are currently in design on for a World Language Academy replacement and Flower Branch Elementary School. Anytime we do new construction on a new or existing site, We have to do an application to the State Department of Education to get their approval to adapt the site. So this is the first step in that process. We will need signatures on this with approval.
Once again, this is approval for the tear down rebuild of WLA Primary. It's approval for the renovation additions at Flowery Branch Elementary School. I'd like to recommend that that be approved as presented.
Can I have a motion? Second. All in favor?
The second item we have tonight is for construction manager at risk. Our process is that we go through this during the design process to bring the contractor on board. This is for the World Language Academy replacement in Flowery Branch Elementary School. Bring to you tonight recommendation of Carroll Daniel Construction for World Language Academy replacement, winter construction for Flowery Branch Elementary School additions and renovations.
Brian, one of the things we're not seeing that we thought we might is a slowdown in work. We have not used winter previously, at least not in my 20 years. Would you just talk to the board? Brian, I think you were in on that process too. Eric was also, about how we ended up on winter for the Flowery Branch addition.
Yes, sir. We did bring in the three best. We did preliminary scoring. We brought in the three best companies for interviews. We felt that winter construction shows good ability to do this work. So we're excited to have them come aboard to do this project. We did check references from Forsyth and Cobb County, and they have excellent references.
Once again, let's put those in the opposite order. You check references, you want to take a look at a person's character and make a prediction. What they're going to do the next 10 years, you take a look at what they've done the last 10 years. Similar with White, winter, they've had a lot of projects in the immediate area, had great references, and so we are comfortable using winter for the Flowery Branch addition. Carroll Daniel, of course, has proved their mettle with us over and over again recently. And so I'd like to recommend that those two contractors, if we can, be approved tonight so that we can continue to keep this process going and stay ahead of the bid curve.
Can I have a motion? Motion. Second. All in favor?
Thank you.
We have several funding requests tonight. These will not need approval tonight. They can wait until the board meeting. First one is for renovations to the Learning Commons at Cherokee Bluff High School to create the media production room. And the others are intercom replacements for the listed schools. Chestatee Middle and C.W. Davis, as you know, are larger projects. This will be a part of those projects. But the reason we're requesting the funding now is so that we can go ahead and do some of the cabling during the school year. This can actually be done in the evenings, and that will help us next summer getting the project complete as we need to.
And Matt, how close does this get us to all of our intercoms interfacing with the rest of our telephone systems? And
I'll need to check on that, but I think we're within just a handful of completion of all.
I think we are too, so thank you. Again, no action required tonight.
Lastly, tonight we have project updates for the two projects we have under construction. Johnson High School appears to be moving slow. Actually, a lot is happening, but when we start a project with demolition, then it always feels very slow as we have to get things out of the way. We have a lot of utilities to move, but you'll begin to see us get the building pad on probably within the next 30 days. So what you're seeing here is the detention pond work, as that's one of the first things we always do is get the stormwater under control on the property. But we are still on schedule. And the other project we have under construction, Everwood Elementary School, again, moving along very well. Easily on schedule on this one. You're beginning to see in some of these photographs us working into finishes, getting things like ceiling grid, paint, tile. Within the next 30 days, you'll see the gym floor go down, goals will be hung. So we're making very good progress.
Any questions on those?
Matt, when are we starting North Hall High School? Someone asked me when we were going to close that small gym down.
So we had a meeting today with the school. I think the plan is to begin, they're going to use the gym up to Thanksgiving break, and then we'll begin the process. Then it is going to be tough because they're in school and we're right in the middle of the campus. But you should begin to see some things happen right after Thanksgiving break.
Very exciting. Questions for Matt? Other questions? Personnel, Dr. Swafford.
The personnel packet is in front of you this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. And Mr. Schofield, we would like action on tonight's board packet, please.
She sent that earlier, did I have a chance to look at it? Did that the motion? Second, all in favor?
Thank you.
Looks like we're getting down to everything being covered. There was fewer and fewer every time we met, so.
That is correct.
There is Deborah, we've been very fortunate.
Yeah, I feel great about where you are with all this thing.
Thank you.
All right, now we have a time for executive session, and then we'll come back in and have a little meal and do our board training.
And tonight's training, Kevin, is on.
Student outcome and achievement data.
In terms of executive session tonight, we do have a personnel issue as well as anywhere between 2 and possibly as many as 5 tortious interference lawsuits that you may or may not want to file for anywhere between $9,000, perhaps as much as $50,000 or $60,000. And again, we'll talk about those in executive session.
All right, I have a motion to go into executive session. Second, all in favor?
No, we're going to come back here.
The board is leaving. You guys stay here if you like. They're going to go to another room for the executive session.
Does it matter who signs out?
Hello, how are you getting on?
I'm great, how are you doing?
Like a weed.
Walking it over, staying.
That may be what she's doing.
Like it's not today.
That's like a little food poison.
This is like something I could do for my 7th grade science class. Something growing in there.
Watching your schoolgirl figures.
That's right, that's right. All right, let's get started, Kev. Well, Kev's not here.
Here he comes.
Y'all waiting on me already?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm coming, I promise.
Sorry.
You got a water right in front of you.
Brian, if I were to remember that way, that's your good side going up.
Just don't shine the light on it.
Yeah, you make me nervous, Rick, while I was taking a picture, but you were up. Just be glad I got you to move, you never lied, you know?
All right, we're ready to start. Ready to roll?
Yes.
All right, first of all, thanks for everybody for being here, but I want to do a special shout out to Tim Cochran with Pioneer Risa, always here to sign off on our embedded modules. To remind everybody in the room, our school board is required by law to go through board training, and then this particular board, as they go after exemplary status, always seeks additional hours of training as a part of that. That is what we're here tonight doing, part of that. We're going to work through tonight. This module we cut in half, and so we do typically the first half every fall and the second half in the spring. There's different modules for board training that are signed off on by GSBA, and if you want to see some of the list of module trainings, you can actually go to the Pioneer RISA site, the board training, and you can see a list of the trainings that RISA has been empowered to sign off on. We always choose as a board student achievement outcome data, because the board does and always have, as long as I've been here. It's been one of the 4 modules we use.
And we do this training here as opposed to what typically boards would do. They would go off somewhere to a meeting somewhere else. But we do it here with our data and use our data for our training.
Before we get started, I always want to say a special shout out. I have a data analyst in the teaching and learning department. Her name is Tracy Bishop. She is one of a kind. This slide deck is over 170 slides, and we're not going to sit here and read through every single one of those. There's a lot of data here, but there's also a homework assignment as a part of this training, which is to actually spend some time going through this. Gave you window notes tonight, and I'll explain that as we go through. But first off, to show you the different types of data we're going to be looking at: milestones into grade assessments, into course assessments, grad rates, post-school outcomes for SPED students, diploma seals, ACT results, SAT results, IB exam pass rates, IB diplomas, AP exam pass rates, AP scholars, CTAE outcomes, and RISE data. Given each of the board members and the superintendent a copy of window notes that just help you as you go through this, end of grades to any facts that you make note of, take note of, to mark down any reactions to the data set that you see or any questions. You can post those on the Windows notes. And then at the very end, we're going to ask 2 things that you're proud of, because there is data in here you should be proud of, and 1 thing I wonder about as you go through. So everybody's got those window notes. I'm not going to sit here and talk all night. I'm really pleased that I've got my team members from Teaching and Learning. Matt Alexander is going to let you go through most of elementary, and then Suzanne Gerard, Executive Director for Midland High School, is going to go through most of our Midland High School data, and then Amanda Llewellyn is going to go through a lot of the outcome data that you see at the tail end of this. So one thing before we get started, and before I turn it over to Matt, let you say, when we go through our data, it's the same way it's been. I've been at the district office now 12 years. We have to work at it for our students. We are not a perfect district with regard to our scores. There's people that point out that we do not have a school in the top 10%. There's about 1,300 elementary schools in this state. To be in the top 10, you'd have to be in the top 130. We have some schools in categories that put us in the top 15%, top 18%. We have about 600, it's actually close to 550 in the middle school ranks. We have schools that are in that top 25%, but it is factually correct. We do not have a school right now that's in the top 10%. We actually have it for a fair amount of time. I'm going to show you, Matt's going to show you, Suzanne's going to show you some trends that we're pretty proud of, and yet, hear me, very transparent. I would love to see higher literacy rates. I would love to see higher math percentages. I would love to see a lot of these numbers higher than they are. Last month, we went through a demographic data presentation with you, showing you just the facts. We're going to show just the facts tonight. I don't think you're going to see anything that we're hiding, manipulating with regard to that. Matter of fact, I know you're not, because we pulled this pretty much straight from the state site or from like GOSA with regard to that. We do not share a lot of the state data, but as my folks go through this, they will kind of keep you aware of where this is in comparison to the state. We're behind the state typically somewhere between 1 and 7 to 8% on most of the categories that we're going to see tonight. But again, they'll give you updates as we go through. Just want to let you know that. And at the same time, we're going to get to some places where you're going to see our kids come out of the Hall County School District
and they compete just fine in our community, in our state, and in this country. You will see that. You'll see that in our graduation rates. You'll see it in our SAT rates. You'll see it in our IB diplomas, our AP exam rates. I'll really spend some time when we get there to show you where we are. But again, kind of a mixed bag from the get-go. I'm not going to make any bones about that. And without further ado, Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. So we will start. Assuming I can make the clicker work.
Do the other direction. There you go.
There we go. All right. So we'll begin by going through the milestone scores at the elementary level, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade of those grades that are tested. We'll also look at end of courses at the high school level. Mr. Arter showed those with you. So we'll get started. So what you see here is a really big table that's really hard to read. Don't focus on that. I'm going to break the data out for you in other slides, so we'll get moving. So this represents grades 3 through 5, English Language Arts. Okay. So you'll see we're up in 24. 23 we're at 27.5. 24 we were at 31.3 of students that either were proficient or distinguished. So then we're going to move into 3rd grade, very specifically. And I'm challenged. Okay. So 3rd grade, you're going to see the trend begins there. Gains from 23 to 24, number of students who are proficient and distinguished. Here you'll see, and this trend holds through all of elementary, females tend to outperform males just a little bit. You'll see that in all 3 of these grade levels that are represented. And then it's broken out by race as well, and ethnicity. So looking specifically at some subgroups here, you're going to see that our EL students are down a little bit this year, but our economically disadvantaged students are up. That's a trend you're going to see throughout all of elementary. Our kids who are economically disadvantaged, we're continuing to make gains with that subgroup, so we're really proud of that. Down a little bit with our SPED subgroup. Okay, moving into 4th grade. You'll see we're up there again in 4th grade in number of proficient distinguished learners. Again, females are trending ahead a little bit. Okay, our subgroups again. In 4th grade, you see we're up a little bit with our EL kids. Again, up with economically disadvantaged students. 4th grade, SPED students were down a little bit. 5th grade, up significantly in 5th grade. Again, the same trend with female students over male students. EL students were up a little bit. Economically disadvantaged students continue to be up. And in this room, in this particular grade band, you also see students with disabilities are up a little bit from the year before. To give you perspective, in 3rd grade, we were ELA, we were 29%. The state average was 39%. In math, we were 39%. I haven't got the math data yet. With 4th grade, ELA, we were at 29.3. The state was at 37%. With 5th grade, ELA was at 35%. The state average was at 48%. So as Kevin said, we're a little below the state, but that's where we are right now.
Matt, let me stop you there, and the board may have questions as we go through this as well. You say we're below the state, and we are. Does that mean all 19 of our elementary schools are behind in ELA, behind in reading?
No, we have several schools that are ahead of the state and the RESA average.
Yeah, so
most of our schools.
Just so everybody, the board hears, your Spout Springs, that 29 number at Spout Springs is 49.5, Mount Vernon 43, Walker Mountain 46, Chestnut Mountain 42, Lanier Elementary 39. Those are 3rd grade ELA numbers, all above the state. So it is true, we're below the state overall with all 19 of our kids, schools averaged in there. But to say we don't have schools that are well above the state would not be true. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And this last slide on ELA is a little different because this really helps us look at students with disabilities. Also, as Kevin pointed out a few trainings ago, the number of students we have who are both EL and identified as students with disabilities.
Matt, we need to clarify that, though. It's not just EL, it's newcomers, and it's not just newcomers. It's newcomers with no formal schooling. Through our ITI process, there's only 3 districts like us in the state that have 35% of our elementary special ed kids who are English language learner. An overwhelming number of those are newcomers, and they score lower in their home language than they do in the English language. What does that say? It says they haven't been to school. So you get an 8-year-old who comes who's never been to school, and you want to compare with Gainesville. When you compare with Gainesville, who's a very similar system, we do just fine, thank you. And so, again, a lot of folks think there's a really easy answer to an incredibly complex situation. And as Einstein said, they're just wrong. It's okay.
So Matt, really what that tells us there, and Will is exactly right, the newcomer data would be even more spread out. But bottom line is, when you look at SPED with EL and then SPED without, there's a 10% gap right there, 3rd, 4th, 5 with ELA.
Right.
The average for those is 11.8 individual, 3rd grade's 8.7 differential. With one, so yeah, you see those gaps there, pretty substantial.
Yeah, 10% gap.
Newcomers are even larger.
Take the EL newcomers out, and you're at or above the state average in 6 out of 7 of those grades.
Keep going, Matt. We got 170 something.
Got it. So look at our reading status results. 3rd grade reading results. Again, big graph, break it out to a smaller graph. We're up a little bit this year for 3rd grade. We're at 57%. The state average for 3rd grade is 64%. So we're trailing the state, but not by a lot in 3rd grade. Again, you'll see those same kind of gains we were seeing earlier. Economically disadvantaged students are up. EL students are up a little bit. Grade 4. Up in 4th grade as well. 4th grade we're at 47% reading at or above grade level. The state average for 4th grade is 56%. Okay. 5th grade, we're kind of holding steady in 5th grade at 59.30%. The state average is 72%. So we're a little further behind in 5th grade.
Matt, I'm going to stop you right there. When we were talking about this data, there's different ways you can look at data. You can look at your grade level and your reading status, but you also can sometimes follow a cohort through our system. And sometimes you have grade levels that have historically kind of trailed other grade levels. It's just kids come in waves. Anybody here familiar with athletics? Athletes sometimes come in waves, higher performance, better performance. Sometimes we see that in education too. You never get a perfect look. You can look at same test every year, different students. Or you can look at same students every year, different tests. But you never can have it both ways with regard to that. So it is important that we at least talk through that when we go through it.
Absolutely. Other thing is, I'm excited at least that you as a board chose to adopt a core curriculum and benchmark. So I believe our reading data, although we're making gains now, I think we're going to see more gains over the next 3 years. You're going to see something similar when we get into math because the board also let us adopt Eureka Math. And so with that curriculum, we've made some real gains in math that you'll see now. Again, 5th grade reading, I told you where the levels were. Interestingly, in 5th grade, we made gains with all of our subgroups in literacy, so I'm pretty excited about that. So that's a nice thing to see. Okay. Mathematics, again, first look is all 3 through 5. Like I said, you can see some gains there in 24 in math for proficient distinguished scores. Moving into 3rd grade, a little bit of gain there in mathematics. Now the trend's a little different. Our boys tend to perform a little bit better than our girls in 3 through 5 mathematics. Here you're going to see that we're making gains in math in all of our subgroups in 3rd grade. All of them made some progress last year. With math in third grade, our average was 39.1% distinguished and proficient. The state average was 45%. Grade 4, significant gains in fourth grade last year. Again, boys are outperforming girls a little bit. Again, you're seeing gains across the board with all of our subgroups in mathematics as well. And so that last year's cohort of fourth grade, they would be one of the first groups that's in Eureka their entire career. Okay. Fourth grade, we were at 39.9%. The state for distinguished and proficient was 48%. Fifth grade, we were up just a tiny bit.
Matt, real quick, not to be Captain Obvious, but everything you showed was coming off lows in 2021. Anything happened in 19, 20, 2021?
Was it COVID? I did. Okay. So here you see we're in fifth grade, the subgroups were up in EL, up in economic disadvantage, down a little bit with our SPED subgroup. And again, the disparity between students with disabilities who are also EL students and students with disabilities who are not EL is even more significant. Here you're going to see trends of 12% greater between those students groups.
Yes.
Like when you look at fifth grade, 13, 2.8, 14 points difference. Yeah, 14 points difference between those two student groups. Significant. Science in fifth grade, we were down a little bit in science this year. Boys outperformed girls a little bit. Fifth grade is the only grade level we test science for milestones, so we only have data from fifth grade, the elementary level. Saw some gains both from EL students and economically disadvantaged students, and a slight gain for students with disabilities. Okay. You're up, Mr. Ross.
Okay.
Matt, before you leave, question, you where you want to be with scores?
No.
Scores?
No.
Literacy rates where you want them to be?
Heavens no. Need to be a lot higher.
You sit in meetings where everybody's content with where the data is?
Sorry?
Do you sit in meetings where everybody in teaching and learning departments is content with where?
Not a single time that I can recall since I've been up here. No. We always want to do better. And we can do a lot better by our students.
Agreed. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So thank you for the opportunity to be here to share some of the middle school and high school data. I completely agree with what Matt said and what Kevin said. We are not at perfection, but we're going to relentlessly pursue it. While I'm here and the rest of us, I know our heart is to continue to improve, and that's what we're working to do. So I'm going to start with sharing the middle school, that would be the wrong way, the middle school ELA data with you. So it's the same format that you just saw with Matt. We'll start with a graph that has everything that you're going to see in a bar graph form next. So what you're seeing now is the English language arts for grades 6, 7, and 8 combined. So you'll see that there was just a little bit of a change from 2023 to 2024. We were down 0.3. Excuse me. So our percentage of proficient and distinguished students was 35.6. The state was 42. So again, overall, when looking at 6th, 7th, and 8th combined, not a lot of change. However, when I start to look by grade, you'll see some differences there. Excuse me. As Kevin stated, also, you will see that there are schools that are outperforming this combined scores that I'm giving you here. So this is 6th grade alone. And I would say this is a green. I always say, is it a green? That means it went up. Is it yellow? It didn't change. Or is it red? It went down. And of course, I want green. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a little competitive in that nature. And so this is a green. This is good. We went from a 35.10 to a 35.30. That's up 0.2. And the state is 42% there is the percent on that. I'm going to go the right way shortly. All right, when you look again at the demographic data, that Kevin spent some time in a previous training looking at, you're going to see a trend that is very similar to what Matt talked about. When it's ELA, our females typically outperform our males, and we've worked diligently to do some strategy to try to lessen that gap that you see there. When you look at our subgroup data for 6th grade, I was pleased with that. The data even stayed the same or went up in all 3. Our EL students to the far left, our economically disadvantaged students in the middle, and our students with disabilities to the far right. All of those were trending upwards in grade 6. So grade 7, looking at a similar thing, this is the grade that I would not say is green. This is a grade where we saw some drops. When I was looking, we always wonder why. Why, are questions that I ask myself, my leaders, and my teachers. Why? We did note that these were 3rd graders when COVID was at its peak. So it makes me wonder what maybe they missed, some of that foundational reading skills there that we are working to try to mitigate. So looking at the 7th grade, you will see that again we were down by 4 points there from one year to the next. I do want to point out what Kevin called Captain Obvious, but it's not obvious for those of us who aren't in education. These are different groups of students, right? So the 2023 students and the 2024 students, although we're comparing them, those are different groups of students with the same test. So as my husband and I talked about a lot Saturday, it is a different Georgia team on the field than was a Georgia team that we went and watched win the national championship, right? Same game, same coach, different team, same scoring pattern. So just so that you sort of see how that went. As you would expect, when looking here, again, we see our females that are trending upward in comparison to males. And then when you look, remember we were down 4 in 7th grade as compared to the other 2 grades, and you'll see that our subgroups were also trending down, which makes sense, right? So even though let me go back here, we were 34% overall proficient and distinguished, the state was 40, so about a 6-point differential there, just to give you an idea. Moving to 8th grade, you're going to see, again, what I would call a green. So we were from 34.7 in 8th grade to a 37.1. And when I'm looking at my state total, the state is a 45 there. So that gives you an idea of where we perform in regards to that. Again, same thing with our gender pattern that you see there. And then looking at our 3 subgroups, our EL group was up here, our economically disadvantaged was up, and our students with disabilities was up in comparison to the previous year. So this is what I call all green. We made a gain there, up 3 from the previous year, and all subgroups are up. So that is our ELA. Any questions before I move to reading about ELA?
Ms. Gerard, you already said it, but ELA, we talked about, we're just a little bit less than we were at the elementary levels behind the state. But do you have middle schools that perform higher than the state?
I do. I have middle schools that perform higher than the state. I have middle schools that outperform what we call the zip code test, meaning that they outperform other schools that are like them with economically disadvantaged students.
So as an example, like Cherokee Bluff in 6th grade, 590 middle schools in the state of Georgia, Cherokee Bluff 106 is their rank, North Hall Middle 174, World Language 264, C.W. Davis 274. That's half your middle schools are in the top half, and one of them's in the top really about 1/6 or top 15, 16, 17%, correct?
That's right.
Thank you.
We're going to keep at it until we get them all up there. One thing that we're doing, Kevin, as you know, but I think it's worthy of saying that we're trying to help learn from each other, right? Help learn from the schools that are achieving at higher levels. We're going to do observing classes there. So I would take leaders and we go into classrooms with leaders and we let them score what they're seeing and then talk about what they're seeing. So we're constantly chasing growth. All right, this is that same chart that you saw for elementary in regards to English language arts. The top rows are the all grade bands together, 6 through 8, and then you'll see those broken out. But you're going to see the same differential there from how our students who are coded as both EL and SPED as to how the SWD students do with that aren't EL in addition to the SWD. And you see quite the differential there from 17 down.
So, Mr. Rard, if a board member was saying, so what y'all doing is just making excuses about kids being SPED and EL. Is that what we're doing, just making excuses about kids being SPED and EL?
We are not making excuses, we're saying the facts. They are what they are, and they bring challenges. And we are working to try to meet those challenges. All right, now we're going to go to reading. Again, the same kind of pattern. So we're going to look at 6th grade in regards to reading. You'll see that that is what I would call a green, right? Students have to score 925 on their Lexile level in reading. When they're taking their reading test, they pull a Lexile level from that reading test. And so we are up 0.7 from there. The state is 59 there to give you a point of reference. And I'm excited to say that we are showing positive trends in all of our subgroups there. When we move to 7th grade reading, again, if you'll recall that we saw a dip in 7th grade by 4 points, and that's going to hold true again here with this 7th grade group in reading. So you see that the year before we were at 67, we are down 2.9 there to a 64.2. And the state there is a 68. To give
Sure,
you
just so the
a
board
reference.
knows, if you're down in ELA, there's a good chance you're going to be down in reading, because reading is just a subset of the same data, correct? It's not everything in the ELA scoring, but it's derived from the ELA section.
That's exactly right. Same test, basically. Okay. Moving on from 7th grade, you'll see their data disaggregated there. Again, same trends with our females outperforming there, our males in regards to reading. And then when you get to our 7th grade subgroup data, you'll see that all are down except for that little mid group, that economically disadvantaged group. They were slightly up. So EL down, SWD down. In 7th grade, our economically disadvantaged are up. Then moving along to reading for our 8th grade students, you will see that in 8th grade, again, our students were slightly down here. We were down 0.7. The state was 72 there, so slightly down there. Now, I will point out that this data includes all students as it is right now. You probably, I'm going to say you will, see that 61.4 go up just a bit because the state will report, take out some students who weren't there for 15 or more days. They'll also take out some newcomer data just for a piece of the reporting, and so you might see that fluctuate later as we move forward. Again, disaggregated data here with our females trending up. And then our 3 subgroups that are divided there for 8th grade. It's interesting to me that that data was slightly down. Remember 0.7 down? But all of our subgroup data went up just a bit, which is exciting. So it would have been some of our demographic data that caused that little bitty slight decrease. All right, that takes us through our reading data and takes us to math. I'm excited to give you an overall idea of math that when I have my summaries here, mostly green. I like green. So let's look at where we are with green. So same trend that we were looking at. This is all math overall together. So 6th, 7th, and 8th combined, proficient and distinguished, 37.01, which was up in our math group, up 4.21 overall, which I was super excited about. The state is 39. So 37, 39, we are closing that gap there, and I'm excited to report that to you. When we look at our overall scores then by grade, Again, all of this is going to be green, so you're going to see that same trend. If you look at 6th grade, you'll see that we went from 32.6 to 33. That is up just a bit. The state was 35 there, so I'd like to point out that we are within 1.9 of closing that gap between where we are in the district overall and where that state number is. So again, our teachers have worked tirelessly trying to close that gap. You'll see a flip here, just like Matt talked about in elementary. You'll see that our males begin to show a trend that outscores our females in our math classes. And then you're going to see positive trends here. All of our subgroups are trending up with the exception of our economically disadvantaged, which was just 0.2 down, but mostly all green and all positive there. Moving to 7th grade, you're going to hear the same results there. Remember, we were mostly green here in 7th grade. So in 7th grade, we were up 2.4 there from moving from 2023 to 24. And our state average is 38 there. So 36.9, state is 38. So I'm proud to say that we're only a point, 1.1 to be exact, away from our state average. So again, seeing some positive growth there. Again, you're going to see that same trend in our males. And then when you look at our demographic data, our subgroup data there, you'll see that all of those subgroups are trending upwards. All right, that brings us to our 8th grade math results. So when looking at our 8th grade math, again, you're going to see some positives. So green, more green. In fact, you're going to see some of our highest gains there. We went up 9.5. So we were at 31 to 40.9. So we were excited about that. The state is 44 there. So that gives you an idea of a plumb line of how to compare that data. Again, this is our same kind of trends that you're seeing. And when you're looking at the differences there in our subgroup data, you'll see some great gains. Our English language learners are up 3.4, our economically disadvantaged 11.5, and then our students with disabilities are 5.5. So we were pleased with that subgroup growth there.
Suzanne, I'm going to stop you for a second and remind the board, every spring we start getting these results back, and sometimes we get results like 8th grade math that said, wow, you're up like 9%. And I always caution my folks, that's great, but slow down, let's see where the state's at. The state was up 11. And so that's a great example. On the flip side of that, sometimes you'll be like, we're down 1. And you'll say, oh man, everybody will lower their head in the department. They're disappointed because we're down 1. And I'll say, slow down, we haven't seen the state. And the state will be down 3. And hear me, we're not, the truth is, Gerard, we set the state as a standard, but we want to surpass that. We don't want just, 39% of our kids proficient or distinguished. We want 100%.
Absolutely.
But it's a great point about sometimes you get results, you got to caution yourself against an initial deflation or inflation of the excitement because, again, the state may do exactly what happened in education. We're up 9% and thinking we're doing great, and we realize, wow, the state gained more than we do, so we got work to do.
I could not agree more. We just have to have a plumb line,
That's
sort of, as to where we are. Again, always looking to grow and get better in all the areas. Okay, here's that same chart that you saw comparing our students who are designated as SWD and EL as compared to our students who are SWD but not EL. The first 2 rows up there are all students 6 through 8, and then it breaks it down by grade level. And you're continuously seeing that same pattern that we pointed out with the large differential between the students who have both designations and the students who do not. Any math questions before I move to science?
Math questions?
Math questions, sir.
I'm not strong in division, no.
I can help you with division. Okay, moving on to...
Suzanne, go ahead and go back one because again it just points it out that what's different about Hall County than the overwhelming majority, 95% plus of districts in Georgia, go to the big percent beginning learner. For instance, students SWD that are also EL. It's not a 7% difference. They've ranged in these charts anywhere from 20 to 30% difference. That's insurmountable in terms of trying to catch up at the other levels. So again, it's not a 7%. In this particular case there, it's 21%.
And what an excellent point, Mr. Schofield, because math is not just numbers anymore. Folks used to say that it was the universal language, and so some of our students who struggle with language might perform better on this. But we now know that the new standards are super language rich, which also gives our newcomer and EL friends a challenge as well.
In your 8th graders there, for instance, it's substantial.
Okay, now we're going to our science results for our middle school students. Like Matt was talking about, we only test 8th grade math in an end of grade assessment. And so this is the regular physical science assessment for 8th grade, and that'll make some sense here in a moment. So we were slightly up in 8th grade there, 0.4, from 14.7 to 15.1. Again, you'll see that same gender difference. And then our subgroup data is trending upward, with the exception of our students with disabilities who are slightly down in the 8th grade physical science realm. You're then going to see something that says middle school physical science end of course results, and end of course is typically high school. The difference is we encourage rigor in our middle schools, well, period, K-12. And we allow many middle schoolers, in fact, that's the balanced scorecard goal that you all know about. We are working to try to get most of our middle schoolers, 90% or better, to have at least one high school course, so that when they go into high school, they have a leg up on their peers, and it allows them lots of things. First of all, if they fall behind, it gives them a cushion that they can fall back on. But then our students, it gives them many opportunities to do rigorous things beyond just their traditional high school. So I think it's one of the strongest things that we do. And the data that you're going to see is the students in middle school who are enrolled in the physical science high school course. So you will see that we were slightly down there with our middle school students from 44 to 50.8, and those students that were going down there. The state average there was 51 to give you a point of reference. Again, you'll see the gender of our male students outperforming our female students. And then you'll see some some subgroup data there. One thing that I'm excited about is that graph on the far right. You'll see in 2023 we did TFS, means too few students, but you'll see that we had students with disabilities taking our most rigorous coursework, which is exciting to me. Our economically disadvantaged also trended up, so those were some positive looks there. Okay, and then we also test in social studies in 8th grade, only in middle school, and that's Georgia history, for just as a point of reference. That physical science in 8th grade, Georgia history also in 8th grade. And looking at this data, you will see that we were, again, that would be a green, we were slightly up, 2.2 there, the state is 38 there, and then our males did outperform our females there, and our all subgroup data was trending upwards in our 8th grade Georgia Studies course last year. Okay, that is a big puzzle piece of all of our middle school 6 through 8 tested subjects. Before I move to high school, any discussion, thoughts, questions from the board members? Okay, then let's move to what we call an end of course grades. Just as a point of reference, you all approved for us to count these courses as 20% of the student's final grade. So students in these courses only will have their grade their grade for the course will be impacted by their end of course grade. It's, again, a 20% overall. There are only 4 courses in high school that have a test. So students in high school are tested in American Lit, and that's typically in 11th grade. They're tested in Algebra, Concepts and Connections, which is a 9th grade course. Biology varies from school to school as to which grade, but it typically falls into 10th grade, although many are starting to trend back toward a 9th grade. And then U.S. History, which is also an 11th grade course. So 4 courses that students are tested on in the high school level. We're going to begin with American Lit EOC scores and give you some ranges there. This, again, would be a green for me. Students were at a 32.10, and they're now up to a 39.7. So we are seeing that trend in the right direction. That is up 7.6 percentage points. Again, different groups of students, I want to point out, but still, yeah, a 7.6 increase. And a state was a 42 there for a reference. We still see our females, that same trend of a reading and ELA with them performing better than our males. And you will see for our subgroup, that word gets me every time tonight, that our subgroup data is trending upwards as well in all of our subgroups there. Students with disabilities, English language, and our economically disadvantaged students there. We also derive a reading score from that test. And so we can compare ourselves to reading and see how we are doing there. This is a student who scores at 1185 or higher on their Lexile level. So again, American Lit, that's typically our 11th graders. 65% of those are scoring at or proficient or better. And the state rule here, or state number was a 66, so we're within 0.9. Again, as Kevin said, we're not going to hang our hat there, but it does give us a plumb line as to compare ourselves. So we're within a 1 point of the state average when comparing ourselves to the reading level across Georgia.
Suzanne, I know you're not competitive, but the reality is Matt's numbers are a little bit more of a gap with the state. Middle school, a little bit less, even though there's places where we have gaps. And then high school is even less of a gap than that. And I know you're competitive, and you can say that's because of all your great work and you've worked really hard. Part of that could be language acquisition research kicking in too, correct?
It has nothing to do with this girl sitting in front of you, because quite frankly, what really matters is what those teachers do in the classroom with their students. But you're absolutely right, my friend. I benefit from the great work that Matt does with his elementary folks, and you're going to see that trend even when we get to graduation. The longer we have them, our trends are, the longer we have them, the better we do with them.
And that's a trend that we've had for years, as long as you've been up here, Suzanne?
Yes, sir, as long as I've been with our district, which is 32 years, sir. Okay, so that gives us our reading status and a little bit of the overview there with reading. Again, you're going to see that positive trend there with our overall reading with all of our students with disabilities. This next test is the Algebra Concepts and Connections. Again, it's a 9th grade test. You're going to see data, this first chart that I'm going to show you, you're like, gosh, there's not many bars there. Well, the reason is because the state changed this test last year, so we had nothing to compare